MYCHOWLINE. I'm Tracy Lingle. Join us as we serve up dishes that are sure to please. You'll also hear a story of military service and food. Today I'm honoring my stepfather, John Williams. We'll be cooking jambalaya. Today's sponsor, Grill Your Ass Off Seasonings. We're going to be using the Claymore Cajun seasoning from Grill Your Ass Off for our jambalaya today. Go to grillyourassoff.com/MyChowLine or use MyChowLine as a promo code at checkout for 10% off. Jambalaya. It's a great meal. Lots of protein. Feed a large crowd. So this dish is a very simple dish with very few ingredients, but it's all in how you cook them. You're going to need a skillet or pot, deep cast iron preferably. You can use the enameled ones. You can do this in the house. I prefer to do mine outside, and I'm also making it for a large group, so it'll be a little different than you would if you were doing just a small pot for the house. I tend to feed a lot of people, so I tend to have to make it in bigger batches. So this recipe is plussed up some. I use a lot of feeling, so bear with us as we go through this, but the main ingredients are all the same. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get all this. I've already prepped all the ingredients. We're gonna have to take, we also use chicken stock. And so when I get my chicken thighs, I typically take and I debone them and take the skin and a little bit of the fat off, and I put it in a pot and render that down into a broth. Adding any of my, so you're gonna have celery, onions, and bell peppers, and I take the scraps of those and put them in the pot with the parts of the chicken, the bones and the skins, when I do my broth, and it helps with creating a nice broth. And then cook it down, and this is what we get, and then we'll use that to help fluff up the rice. So we'll get to it. Woo, gonna get a little storm tonight. All right, we'll get to it. All right, so we got our ingredients here. The only thing you need for making jambalaya, you need rice, a Cajun seasoning. Either make your own blend or use a blend that's already made. I'm using the Grill Your Ass Off seasonings, Cajun seasoning, the Claymore. You need onions, celery, and bell peppers. That is called the Trinity, the Cajun Trinity. So the ratio, just so you know, is like it's a standard mirepoix, but it's the Cajun mirepoix. So mirepoix is celery, carrots, and onions. This is celery, onions, and bell peppers for the Cajun, and you need, it's 3-2-1. So however much you're doing, you need 3 parts onion, 2 parts celery, 1 part bell pepper. I'm going a little more for, you know, I'm using like 3 onions, 1 medium thing of celery, and 2 small bell peppers. A red, or red and an orange one for color. You use the green as the typical one they would use, but I like adding a little color in there. Then we've got our sausage. You want to use a sausage very similar to this. High fat content's good. If you have people who don't eat pork, go with the all beef sausage. A kibblasi andouille is preferred. You can even go with a chorizo style if it's solid like this. And then chicken thighs cut up into small cubes. Now everything you want to try to keep the same size and consistency for cook. So now, and then you also have chicken stock, and then you have the pope, which is garlic. That's not required, but I think it is. But the Holy Trinity: sausage, chicken, rice, broth, and that's it. Now, how you assemble it is the most important part. So we're going to season up this chicken and let it start sweating out. We're going to season it up with the Grill Your Ass Off Claymore seasoning. We're going to season it pretty heavy because we want this, the rice is going to dilute a lot of your flavors, so you're going to want to add a lot to it. It also helps the chicken a little bit, gives it that nice kick. And we'll add a little bit more into the jambalaya as we add all the stuff together before we let it cook. I've started the smoker because we're going to smoke this after we grill off in the Dutch oven back here. I'm going to bring the camera over. I'll show you how we set up the how we cook down the mirepoix and how we get the flavor that is the required for jambalaya. Jambalaya is special. You want to get the fond off the bottom of the pan. That's required for this. So we're going to be cooking this stuff up really, really good. So I'm going to mix this up and let it sit. All right, so you want your chicken to be seasoned up and looked like that. You want to have it good and covered. You want to make sure it's got plenty of seasoning on it. We're going to let that sit for 10-15 minutes, and we'll get the grill lit, get that skillet getting nice and hot, and then we'll cook this up. All right, we've got our skillet really hot here. All right, now you can hear that sizzle in the bottom. We're going to cook this quickly. We want this stuff to cook off pretty quick. We don't want it to, we're not cooking the chicken all the way through. We are trying to develop the fond on the bottom of the pan, and we're also trying to get a good sear on the outside of this chicken. And this skillet was hot, but it cooled off really quick when I added all that meat. So I gotta let it build up some temperature again. Push this meat to the side. Let it get hot again. That's the downside of using a lot of meat. Even with cast iron, can hold the heat. But if you put too much meat in it too fast, I should have done a little bit at a time. Maybe I'll pull some of this out. It will cool down really quickly, because even if the meat is room temperature, you're still taking away some of that heat with something that's not as hot. Oh, that smells good. Oh my goodness. Come on, heat back up, baby. We want that sizzle. You hear that sizzle? Want that sizzle. All right, so this is starting to cook down a little bit. Starting to sizzle on the bottom. Smelling really good. Man, I wish y'all could smell this. All right, so we're gonna take this now. It's cooked most of the way. Put it back in this pan. And we'll put it in our bigger pan that's over in the smoker. And then we'll cook our sausage. Ah, yes. That's what we're looking for. When you go to stir this up a little bit and it starts to stick a little bit, that's when you know you're getting that fond on the bottom. All right, not much longer now. We got pretty good char on this. We got some good fond. All right, so we've removed our sausage. We've got a nice good bit of fond in the bottom. Now we're gonna add our vegetables. We're gonna allow this to cook down. Keep stirring it. And as it sweats out, it will pick up all that fond in the bottom. Just like it's starting to do right there just a little bit. See how little specks, but it'll get more as this cooks down. And it'll help pull up some of that flavor off the bottom of the pot. So we'll check back in a minute. We've got this cooked down most of the way. See the good color we have right here? All right, so what we're gonna do is we're now gonna add some more seasonings. Add the tomato paste, the Worcestershire, and the Pope, which is garlic. And we're gonna let that simmer for a little bit, and then we'll add our rice. All right, so I've added tomato paste, 2 small cans. I added more of the Cajun seasoning, added garlic paste, and about 2 or 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire. I might add a little bit more. We'll let that combine a little bit, and then we'll add Make sure we have enough oil in here. And then we're going to add our rice. All right, so it looks like we've got this combined pretty good. I'm going to add the rice. I'm using about 5 cups of rice for this because I'm using one of the large serving trays. So we want to make sure we have plenty of rice to go with it. We want to make sure we have plenty of stuff in that to mix with the rice. We want it to coat the rice really, really good. So all that flavor is going to go to the rice. Anytime you use a rice dish, you want to make sure you add plenty of seasonings because the rice will wash out any seasonings you have. So if you think you have too much in it right now, just remember it's concentrated. It will get thinned out with the rice. So we're going to put the rice in now. All right, added my rice. Now we're just going to stir it up. Now you see we've incorporated the rice in, folded it in, mashed it down real good. Make sure all the kernels of the rice are covered in the seasonings and the flavors and the fats and the juices and oils. And now we're going to transfer it to the pan that's in the smoker. Here's what we got going in the smoker. I already put the bay leaves in here. We're going to add that to this, and then we'll fill it with the chicken stock, and then we'll let it cook. All right, so now we've taken our rice and transferred it over, mixed it in. Now we're going to add our chicken stock. So I got 9 cups of stock in there. Since it's going to be open and smoking, I may have to top it off. I may have to bump it up a little bit and add a little bit more because it'll probably evaporate some. So as it cooks, but we're going to stir this up and then it's going to let it sit and ride in the smoker. All right, we've come to the time in the show where I sit down and have a cigar with you. Pour a little Horse Soldier, Warfighter Tobacco Victory cigar. One of the ones I had left over from my jump in Normandy. I got to buy a few more cigars from them, but thanks Mikey for delivering the cigars to me in Normandy. If you didn't check out some of the videos, the short videos and stuff that I posted from our time in Normandy for the 80th anniversary D-Day. I was able to come back with some beach sand from Normandy, filled in my 80th anniversary D-Day Horse Soldier bottle after we consumed the bottle on the beach and on the drop zones. I've got some more Horse Soldier here to drink. Gonna pour myself some now. I'm dedicating tonight. It's today is Father's Day. You probably won't see this for a week from Father's Day, but today's Father's Day. I've already done a story on my father, so it's only fitting that I do my stepfather now, John Williams. I'm going to tell you his story. Now, John Williams is 93, Air Force. He served in the Air Force, which was the new Air Force. Before, not long earlier, it was the Army Air Corps. So he joined the Air Force 1950, December 29th, 1950. He was 20 years old. It was at the beginning of the Korean War, and he knew that he would be drafted if he didn't join up. So he decided to join the Air Force so he could pick where he got to go. Now, John was born in Miami. So that would have been 1930. He was born in Miami. 1930, 31, because it's 2024 now. So he was 20 year old. Yeah, thereabouts. So after he joined the Air Force in 1950, he was stationed in Greenville, South Carolina with the 433rd, and it was the Ohio Reserve Air Force is what he ended up getting assigned to, but they were already getting preparations for deploying. So he went and did his basic stuff and all the training and stuff. He ended up getting assigned to the Ohio Reserve Air Force out of Donaldson, and then went to Frankfurt, Germany. So 1950, the Korean War is in progress, but it's 1950, so we just got done fighting the Germans. So he's in Germany less than 5 years after the end of the war. The way he explains it is there were still piles of rubble all throughout Frankfurt. He goes through the airborne radio school, learning Q signals and Morse code. And all his basic stuff was in Louisiana for a year. But anyway, so he's in Frankfurt. He's assigned. He's in a cargo plane for the most part. He grew up in Miami, 1950. So you don't know. Pizza didn't start hitting the States until just after the 50s, when most of the World War II soldiers started coming home. The guys that served in Italy and stuff like that and overseas, and were exposed to some of these new foods. And so they started bringing, mostly the Italians started bringing pizza back with them. Well, John had never had pizza before. And so one night, he didn't even know what pizza was. It's a foreign food to him, just like if you were to say, 30 years ago, say, hey, let's go get some pho. People were like, pho? What's pho? Vietnamese food? Only the people that came back from Vietnam, or the people who are indigenous from Vietnam that are ethnic. It's like an ethnic food. So pizza in the 50s was an ethnic food. So he's in Frankfurt. His buddies are like, hey, let's go into town. They want them to go into town and spend money in the town to help boost the economy. So they give them these little tickets to go in, and that's how the military, basically, the civilians will trade those for money or supplies to influence the economy in Germany. So they go down to the Bahnhof train station, and which is still blown out in sections. There's still glass missing from the train station, and there is a little place across the street, he says, a little cafe across the street, and there's a little pizza joint. They sold beer and pizza, and that was pretty much it. And so the guy's like, hey, let's try this. And he was like, I'd never had that before. So he tried his first pizza ever in Germany, which is not Italian, but he said it was really good. And one of his stories he has also is like the cigarettes was like the main commodity around there, because you could buy them on post for, I think it said, you could buy a carton of cigarettes for $1 and sell them for $5 to the locals. Because one, they don't have many tobacco fields over there, and two, our cigarettes were a whole lot better than theirs were. The Lucky Strikes and all that stuff. So he spends a year and a half in Frankfurt, wearing his uniform, because they're still during the occupation of Germany, during the rebuilding process. So he wears his uniform when he goes out to eat and everything, and he's in Frankfurt for a year and a half. See, he just joined, and they shipped him straight over to Germany. It's not like today where you have a duty station, you go there for a little bit and then move to this was, post-war, you're in there for a long haul. So he ended up spending a total of 3 years in Germany straight. But he does a year and a half in Frankfurt, and then he does a year and a half in Munich. And while he was in Munich, they were able to, after that time, they were able to start allowing them to wear the civilian clothes, going out on the town and stuff like that. And Munich was in better shape than Frankfurt was. So while he's there, he finds an MG that he likes. He's a big car nut. So my stepdad's a big car nut. He loves fast cars, and he's an airplane pilot. He's just anything with a motor on it, he's fascinated with. And I love him for that, because I'm very mechanically inclined as well, and I enjoy airplanes and fast cars and stuff like that, and trucks. And anyway, so he while he's in Munich or München, he got to enjoy the good beer there. He bought an MG, was able to bring it home, and he remembers the first time of him having Wiener Schnitzel and fried potatoes, and he said that was superb. You know, I think back, I've got a story as well from another family member that served during the Spanish-American War, and we forget now, this in our day and age, we have all these restaurants in our local towns. We have Japanese restaurants, Chinese restaurants, Mexican restaurants, and some are authentic and some are Americanized. We have Italian restaurants, we have combination restaurants and stuff, but in the 1950s and earlier, it was a mom and pop restaurant and they cooked the local stuff. Whatever. Now you might have an Italian restaurant like New York City, but if you lived in Augusta, Georgia, you're going to have whatever food unless you can find somebody who opened a restaurant like a German restaurant or a Spanish restaurant or an Italian restaurant that was an immigrant that moved there to open a restaurant. You're not going to be exposed to that kind of culture and that amount of different variety of food. Now we can go out and, what do you want to eat tonight? I don't know. What do you want to eat tonight? There was only 3 or 4 restaurants at the times back then, unless you're in a big city. Now he grew up in Miami, but I don't think they had as many restaurants. They didn't have all the Cuban restaurants they have now. It was very American and maybe with some Spanish influences, but didn't have the Italian, didn't have German influences. So all this stuff in Germany, he's getting exposed to all these new flavors and intensity. And I mean, it's just like if you've never been to Korea, never had Korean food, and you go to Korea and try kimchi for the first time, or Vietnam and try pho or any of the pad thai or any of that kind of stuff, and never being exposed to it, grew up on a farm or whatever. So the military did do that for a lot of people, and I think that's why we also have a lot of restaurants now, because people were exposed to it and now they brought it back, or they married women from there and brought it back, and then they brought their families, and now we've got this diversity in restaurants, which is great, because you got to have a variety in your palate. But John Williams, 93 years old, he spent 3.5 years in the military, in the Air Force, got out, became an insurance salesman, married my mom, took care of her, and then takes care of my kids when we go see her, go see my mom and go see him, and they take care of us. And he's a dying breed, as they say. I love you, John. Cheers. Thank you for your service. Thank you for taking the time and sharing a little bit of your story. He didn't want me really sharing it. I couldn't get an actual story from him other than I interviewed him basically and wrote down stuff. So he's very humble, and I thank you, John. Yeah, I want to share stories of veterans. That's what this is about. I want to share their stories. I want to share food stories mostly, but I want to share veteran stories. Keep their names alive. Keep them alive that way. He's got 2 daughters. I hope they get a chance to see this. But thank you, John. Thank you for serving in the Air Force and reminding us that it wasn't just the Korean War going on at the time. There was other stuff going on in the world, because most everybody focuses on the big events. Well, thank you guys. Cheers. Reminder to check out all the stuff I have on my YouTube channel, all the other cooks I have, and some of the updates from from the D-Day adventure we went on for 2 weeks, where I got to serve the horse soldiers, the horse soldier bourbon guys. I got to serve at a former Secretary of Defense, a 4-star general, a couple of congressmen. So, thank you. I jumped with them in Normandy. Thank you guys. It's been fun. Warfighter Tobacco, Horse Soldier, Grill Your Ass Off seasonings. All right, so jambalaya. I ended up adding probably another 4 to 5 cups worth of chicken broth to this as it cooked, to make sure the rice got fully cooked all the way through as it cooked down, because it would only hold so much in the pan. But it smells amazing. Oh my goodness. So remember, Grill Your Ass Off seasonings, using the Cajun. It looks awesome. I'm gonna have a Yingling to go with it, served up here. Try to make sure I get some sausage and a little bit of chicken. Oh wow. Oh wow. Woo! Oh, I like that. That's nice. That's very nice. Okay. I really like this. Just enough heat. And oh, that's good. That is really good. Okay, so it's got like a heat on the back, a little bit of sweetness from the meat, savoriness from the meat. I don't know, man. This is, oh, it's hard to explain. That rice, nice and fluffy. Oh man, wow. Like, I know there's onions and celery and stuff in here, but like, you can see them, but I taste the seasoning, meat. There's no blandness at all. This is perfect. There's no, like, it's seasoned properly, because I mean, it's got just enough heat from this Cajun seasoning. Well, cheers. Thanks for watching. Man, you got to make this jambalaya, at least at home in a small pot. There are recipes out there. They're all basically the same as mine. Like I said, you can use any of the ones you want, but the process is the same. If you want traditional jambalaya, you got to do it in that order. Well, thanks to Horse Soldier Bourbon, thanks to Grill Your Ass Off, thanks to Warfighter Tobacco, and thank you for joining us. And again, thanks to John Williams for being my stepdad and for serving our country.